our people so triggered, like we're not dialed in to what we want to do. All everybody doing is arguing. Nobody's talking about what we can do together. And this is the challenge. I'm gonna tell you, Irene, the challenge ain't the kids. It's the adults, man. Like we can't even come and sit down and just have and take instruction. That's why we don't grow. Because it's not the kids, it's you adults. The kids learn from y'all. Y'all the biggest problem. There's a lot of black people, black men that's in jail. That's, I mean, super bright, brighter than people that's in college. But they hid it from the world. They tried to be something that they wasn't. Because being in our communities, being smart was associated with being corny and not cool. In our communities, and I know this for a fact, can't nobody tell me. When I was locked up for a homicide and I came home off of a homicide case, they gave me a barbecue. They celebrated me coming home. But when my cousin graduated from college, he didn't get that. They just said, good job. Good job. We celebrate the lower versions of ourselves for a lot in our community. Not all the time, but a lot. And we got to start celebrating. We got to start celebrating and giving a pat on the back to some of our best and let them know that we see you, we appreciate you, because I don't think that y'all understand how important it is for the young people that's watching. What we're doing is we're trying to put together a black city college tour where we take kids from our area to the black colleges and different things, up and down the East Coast. So we're working on that. Like I said, we're working on a bounce back program with the kids coming out of the prisons. We're going to be going into the prisons to talk to the youth. I got a letter of recommendation from the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police. I had a conversation with the commissioner, and I asked her, does she want urban nerds or urban shooters? We got dysfunction that needs to be ironed out. A lot of these boys are not raised to even understand what manhood is. And it's a lot of these girls are not being raised protected to understand what type of man they should be picking. It's all part of a big cesspool that needs to be worked out, needs to be dealt with. And I'm deciding to do something about it. Peace, family. George Macon at you again, aka No Excuse, Just Produce. I'm standing outside the University of Drexel here with my partner Marvin Burrow on the camera.
What's going on, y'all?
2 years ago, we embarked on this journey of Urban Nerds Worldwide with an attempt to introduce children from urban areas to higher heights and a different viewpoint in life. We're attempting to take these children on college tours. Philadelphia has many colleges in the city. Mainly Drexel University, Temple University, the University of Pennsylvania. All of these colleges are situated in West Philadelphia, in the urban area, where these children of West Philadelphia will never see the insides of these colleges. So what Urban Nerds is attempting to do is take these kids on college tours inside these facilities where we can expose them to something different. We can bring something different to their optics other than the dysfunction that happens in West Philly. Philadelphia had over 500 homicides last year. So what Urban Nerds is attempting to do is provide something different for these children. Different opportunities where maybe we may produce the next world-renowned biologist. We may produce the next world-renowned engineer. You never know. So come and walk with us as we embark on this journey to taking our children to higher heights. Urban Nerds Worldwide.
Is not just a challenge, it's a mentality. I'm standing here on the campus of Penn University in Philadelphia. This is the Penn engineering area. This is a part of the experiences that your children can have while they're young. Because, like I said, being inside of the urban neighborhoods is not just a challenge, it's a mentality. That mentality can be constructive or destructive. When we take their mentality and their skill sets and we bring them around constructive places, then where they come from becomes constructive. But if we leave them to their own devices and around energies that are not positive to the atmosphere, then their energy and their mentality and those challenges make them destructive, all in an attempt to survive. Urban Nerds is to help you guys deal with those challenges.
Hello, you guys. Okay, I'm so excited for the fourth volume of the Black Men's Leadership series. And I've really started this series with all of the men that I'm the most excited about. So probably the first 10 people you see are going to be people that I personally am just super excited to talk to. So I've tried to get them first to agree to do it. So today we have George Macon here. If you guys check in the description box, you'll find the information for his channel as well as his institution. So check down there. He'll be talking about urban nerds worldwide in just a second. But I wanted to really start this interview off by explaining why it was so important for me to get Brother George here. And the reason is something that I didn't fully process until I was on his channel the other day, because I kind of shadow watch on his channel. You guys know me. I like to creep on people. I have a live I'm doing with Definition of Anarchy because I was creeping on his channel. I was like, aha, you didn't think I was over here, did you? But when I was over there the other day, he had on a bunch of young men who were talking about an aspect of Black culture that I personally have never experienced. And I kind of was in shock, if I'm really honest, when you guys were talking. I could not believe what I was hearing. I didn't know how to process it. And I know that depending on who I have brought on, so I've brought on two men who have doctorate degrees and are educated and have never been in any trouble. And then I brought on Brother George is going to be the second man that I've brought on who has his pulse on the streets, right? And some people kind of gravitate toward, the educated, kind of cookie cutter brothers. And other people were putting down the idea that we would call leaders these brothers that have their pulse on the streets. But something I recognized in hearing him talk, and this is something I really want us to get into during our discussion, is that we don't recognize the gulf that is between some of the various cultures we have within the Black community. And a person like me, or a man from my community and culture, cannot walk into Brother George's community and culture and get the respect that's needed to build the bridges that are required for us to work together as a unit, as Black people. And so I really want to give a lot of respect to what he's doing and tell you guys to really have an open mind, because we can have a very whitewashed idea of what leadership looks like, but we need leaders that can appeal to all of our people, not just a small portion of our people. So, anyway, thank you for agreeing to do this, even though I know I was harassing you. I know you were like, she is like legit harassing. Wait, you're muted, you're muted.
Yeah, you wasn't harassing me. I've been so busy running around trying to get this urban nerds off the ground. We've been making a lot of moves lately. So
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit? I have some questions for you, but can we just start off with you kind of telling us a little bit about what Urban Nerds Worldwide is and also why you chose to start it?
well, Urban Nerds was created in my mind about 20 years ago. You know, I used to look around my environment and always wonder, like, damn, like why is this, why it's so messed up around here? Like, why, I grew up in the area in Philadelphia called Southwest Philly. So you be in one area and you cross over the bridge and you in the county, and the white folks had the big houses and the nice schools and all these things. I used to always wonder, like, why it's so effed up where we come from? It's just, so I used to ask questions and nobody would answer them. So, I was mixed up in the street stuff and in and out of prison and different things. So as I got older, I started creating ideas in my mind of what I want to do for kids where I come from. Because I found out that when I was like 23, a 16-year-old called me old head. He looked up to me as a big homie, and I'm only 22 years old. So, and at that time I was still young and immature, but as I got older and I'm at this age now, I feel like I said, you know what, I need to do something. Let me call it Urban Nerds, because I want to bring Black intelligence back to the community. I want kids from urban areas to understand and know that you can be a nerd, and a nerd is not just the way the Black community is something that's like a dork or a corny. No, being a nerd is intelligent. Nerds actually create things that run the world. And we want to so our objective is taking kids from urban areas and exposing them to different environments. We got colleges that sit right in the middle of Philadelphia urban areas where these kids will never see the inside of. You got kids that live in an area called the Bottom in West Philly, where Drexel University and the University of Penn, one of the most prestigious colleges in the world, is right there in West Philadelphia. And you got kids that have never even walked through the University of Pennsylvania. They ride past it. They walk past it. So our objective is to take these kids on college tours. We're working out a robotics club with Drexel University. We're actually going in the process of going into the prison to create a bounce back program to get kids coming out of lockup into trades and different things. So we got a lot of things in place. March on the 6th of March, we're taking about 15 kids to the aquarium, and then on the 13th, we're going to the Academy of Natural Sciences, and we're going to have a couple police officers accompany us on the trip. And so we got a couple of things set up for DC in the future. But we just trying to put the work in, man, and expose these kids to different things outside of their environment that they're being raised in. Philadelphia had 500 homicides last year, man. It's just these kids our communities need help.
Why is this even your problem? Like, is it, I'm really wondering, like, why even bother thinking to start this? Did you just see that there was a need in the community? I know you said this was something that was in you 20 years ago. Did you have some backing? There's rhetoric, how these YouTube streets are, that Black men don't build and do the things you're doing until Black women show them that they're appreciated. Is that what motivated you, or is this something that you just
see the
that
difference?
Just in you?
The difference is I live in the real world off of YouTube. This is YouTube rhetoric bullcrap. Outside in the street, man, people ain't. I live in Philadelphia, one of the blackest cities in America. I mean, you probably got 1 million Black people, literally. Here, we got whole neighborhoods where you don't even see white people. So here, as opposed to other cities, people in the communities ain't talking like that. And everybody Black that's in the hood ain't selling drugs or hood niggas. You got thousands of black people that still live in communities, Overbrook section and different sections of Philadelphia. That's college, hardworking people that live in the communities. Everybody. I mean, like when I go live and I walk the streets, people ain't talking like this crap they talk on YouTube. Half that stuff that we hear on YouTube, they don't even go in their own communities and talk this stuff. So I felt as though I wanted to do it because it's my community. It's where I come from. The thing is, if I don't do it and I don't try to put the best effort I can to build the community that I come from, what stops a 13 or 14-year-old from trying to harm my child? It's each one teach one. We're all responsible for each other, and we've lost that idea. The very idea of us being able to go to college or go to school and become the best of ourselves came from a collective effort of our grandparents back in the day. So every right and everything that we got came from a fight and a struggle. So who am I to say now it's not my problem? You know, there's thousands of black people that fought for us, that made my problem, that made issues their problem, so I can have something better today. So who am I to think different?
So you're really operating on the premise that you're not an island. So it's not about the fact like that those kids aren't my problem, that what's going on with that family that's not my issue. You recognize that you're not an island, and at the end of the day, if the society degrades around you, that's going to affect you and yours as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's an interesting approach to take.
Our grandparents thought that way too. Our communities is the way it is now because we've lost sight of that. When we look at those videos, we've seen thousands of grandmoms and grandparents marching together, whether in the South or the North. They was thinking about us. They was trying to make a better life for themselves so they could produce something for us. That's the way I was taught. That's the way I think, and that's what I instill in my children now. Something that was
Really hard for me to kind of assimilate when I was on, and I'm going to try to get the link to that video so that I can share it with the community, because one of my patrons was over there and she nearly fell apart because she had never heard young black boys. To me, they're boys, even though I think all the guys you had over there, were they like all pretty much like in their 20s?
30 and under, yeah. 30 and under.
Yeah, so they were young men. I was wondering, like, do they think about like all of these things that we think about, like all this conscious sort of activity? I know a lot of them were like, nobody's really telling us what to do. We're going to do what we're going to do. You know, they were talking about extreme violence that was going on in the communities and things like that. Can you just speak to, as somebody that's reaching toward and able to deal with those men and get respect from them, right? Men who, he was like, we're chopping off limbs. Do you know what I mean? Men who say they don't listen to anybody, but they sit down and they have a civil conversation with you and they're comfortable talking to you. Can you explain why it is so important that there are men like you who are able to communicate with those young men if we want to see our entire community improve, or if we're going to have a gap, let's say, between upper middle class Blacks and young men like them, us being able to work together? How essential are people like you for that bridge?
It's very essential, because the thing is, when you like, I work with upper middle class Blacks a lot. The problem is I'm like the go-between. Some of the upper middle class Blacks in Philadelphia can come to the community and talk to those kids too. It all depends. One thing about kids, I think the mistake we make is kids are not stupid. Kids read spirits. They know who they can open up to and drop their shoulders and be vulnerable to, and who they can't. And a lot of times a kid will smell you before you even come in the room. You come in with judgment. You come in with ill will. All you want to do is point the finger, but you're not coming in to teach. A lot of these kids was born into this cesspool in the communities that we come from. They inherited this stuff, and they looking around the same way I did 30 years ago, wondering why is everything so effed up. So a lot of times, man, as adults, it takes people like me and the upper middle class to work together to create things for these kids. And that's why I created the Urban Nerds. I don't go on the block expecting the kids to know anything about zoning laws or money market and investments or any of that. I expect to create that with with the established black people, and then bring the kids to the programs and introduce them to stuff. A lot of our people just run in the community and start pointing the finger. They ain't built nothing for the kids, and you wonder why they wild and out of control. It's no structure.
That's interesting. Do you think, as I was listening to those conversations, do you think that the work needs to be done with young children, or do you think that it's possible for organizations like Urban Nerds Worldwide to also be able to work with those young men that are in, their 20s?
Both. You get the babies. We create an organization like right now. I'm bringing into my organization a retired principal, and she's going to be heading up part of the organization, working with the little children, the babies. I'm going to be working with the kids from 15 to 25. So we're going to have different aspects of the children we work with. I work with the kids from that 15 to 25 range because I'm able to get through to them, because when they see me, they see themselves. Number one thing I always tell people, what I learned to do was, I don't like the young people's music. I don't like the way they dress. I don't like none of that, but I don't judge it no more when I come to talk to them. Because what happens is, I remember our parents used to judge our music. They used to judge the way we dress. And when they used to come like that, a lot of times we turned them right off. We didn't get the message. And because my dad had a certain way of teaching, I rejected a lot of this stuff early on. And it took me going to prison, going through a lot of different stuff, to finally coming around and say my dad was right. So as I grew, I've learned that the reason why I'm able to get those kids over to my channel and able to get through to the kids, because I don't come with them with harsh judgment. Their music is for their time. That's what they like. That's what they want to do. What I do is I listen, and then I give them old head wisdom, OG wisdom. I tell them, listen, you're going to do what you want to do, but this is what the outcome going to be. And those who got an ear to hear, and let them listen. Some kids, one thing we got to understand, some kids going to die. If we want to get a real reality, some kids going to be in wheelchairs. Some kids going to go to jail. Some kids going to listen right away and get on a program. Some kids going to have to go to prison and then come home and get on a program. That's just the way it's going to, that's just the way the ball bounces. And we got to learn to plan things 10 and 15 years in advance. So you see a group of kids, where we're going to be in the next 5 years, where we're going to be 5 years after that. And one thing about the black community, whether you upper echelon black or in the lower class, the majority of us, we do a poor job in planning things in advance, 20 and 30-year plans. We don't do a good job, especially as a collective. And that's why we're not seeing the change we want. We're not reaching the kids that we think we should reach.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying about not going in with that judgment. And you find that they are receptive. It's just the approach. So the stereotype that comes with, they just don't really care, and that's not really how they are at all.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Once they can actually trust you, that they can be themselves around you, you'll find that some of the hardest of hardened kids drop their shoulders and open up to you. The crazy thing is, some of the kids that's out here that's doing the shootings and that's with all the tattoos on their face, the wildest, those are the ones that are come and talk to you the most. Those are the ones that want to come and sit around you the most. But it's just getting through that exterior.
Can I ask you some questions? Because you brought up prison, and somebody asked me to interview you, and I was like, the same patron actually that was over on your channel. Before she came over on your channel, she asked me to interview you, and I was like, oh, well, I already asked him. She's like, well, I know of somebody you could interview. Like, I'm not so sure about him, but I think he might be good. And she told me, and I said, oh, well, yeah, I know him. I already asked him, and he said he would do it. And so she sent me an interview that you had done. And in the interview, you said that going to prison was the best thing that ever happened to you. And I had another one of my subscribers come to me and say, well, can you do some men that, have, done some time and turn their life around, somebody that I can relate to? It was like a sign. A lot of times we hear things like the Pookie and the Ray Ray. that argument, as if a person cannot make a mistake and then and literally change their whole life and almost lead like a whole new life as a new person, which is something that you've done because that was many, many years ago. Can you speak a little bit to why it is we have to be open and recognize that a person can do something that some of us would cast heavy judgment on, like go to prison, but then ultimately end up being a huge asset to the community?
I'm trying to see how. Wait, rephrase it again so I can program it again in my mind. I didn't get it right.
Can you try to help people understand why, when we think of criminals, right, in the Black community, which is how a person who goes to prison would be labeled,
Oh, okay.
why it is we should not discard those people and why they are still valuable to our collective progress?
Well, we shouldn't discard them because a lot of our people are talented. You got to understand something. Like I always say, who benefits from Black dysfunction the most? It's not Black people. It's not the upper echelon of Black people. Nobody Black benefits. Majority of Black folks, none of us benefit from the dysfunction of our communities. The Black people that are of a higher upper class, a lot of their families come from the hood or the conditions. They just got enough education and made it out. We don't have a lot of families just I was born out here and we got them there, but the majority of us come from inner cities and in the poor South, the majority of us. So we're caught up in the triangle and the tangle of Black dysfunction that other groups benefit from. But that doesn't mean that you're not talented. That doesn't mean that at some point you can't wake up, you know, and become, you know, something productive to society. What it is, man, a lot of us are conditioned to look at each other through the same stereotypical lens as white people do. And that the dangers of some of the education that we get in these universities create that thought process. Because like I said in the beginning, Carter G. Woodson said your education was specifically supposed to build us economically and politically and build our communities up. A lot of us get education and we run away from the communities and we build our families out in those areas around other groups, and we never come back. We don't own the community. The thing is, if you wanna not have so much crime, right? Every other ethnic group owns and runs their communities. The best of the group own the real estate, the businesses, the political structure, everything. So we got thousands of educated Black people, but we don't have millions and hundreds of thousands of millionaires. We should, because we should own the ghetto by now with all the degrees we got. We should own damn near all the real estate in the communities we live. But our people don't do it. And in the system of capitalism, when you don't, as a group, when you have economic power, but you're giving it away to everybody, because the best of our people didn't plan 20 and 30 years in advance to own their communities and redevelop their own people. I got to come these years later and create urban nerds. And then damn, they got to go to white folks to get the money for help, not the upper echelon of my people, because they ain't nowhere to be found. But then they point fingers at the hood. This is the craziness that's going on. Every other community understands this, but our community.
So this is something, I'm so glad that you went that way, because somebody literally just asked me today. They were like, well, what do Black women want, right? If you do want something like a Chinatown. And I'm glad that you started to talk about how it's bigger than just having stores with Black faces on them or communities, that there's a bigger infrastructure surrounding that that's representative of communal power and how that affects our young people. Is one of the goals of Urban Nerds Worldwide, I know you have educational goals there to kind of get rid of the myths around what a nerd is and if being a nerd is something that is cool or acceptable, but is instilling in young people the need for the building of those institutions something that you're also trying to put in them? And also, can you just speak a little bit more about institutionally, what kind of things are important for us to build to support our communal growth?
Well, as Carter G. Woodson said, the Black community doesn't need a lot of leaders. We need workers. We need people that know how to do stuff. We need carpenters, engineers, uh, um, people that plumbers, not just people that know coding. We need people that can go in and do the work, that can build, that know how to build things. So we need to teach our young men these aspects of building and ownership. Um, uh, outside, see, because the thing is, a lot of people in our community have education, but we don't understand the aspect of ownership. We got thousands of black people that's working for other people, making them millions of dollars. We're not thinking about ownership, you know. And I'm gonna tell you something. I gotta say this, right? A lot of the drug dealers in the community, right? Not the low level, but I'm talking about the big high level drug dealers that was no longer on the block, that began to make big money and travel and go be in different circles with different people, right? And see things outside of their own community. They start to understand ownership. Buy the block. I don't want to work for nobody else. I'd rather own this and be able to plan. But this is why they come in and they put you in jail, because you begin to see things outside of the conditioned mind that you're supposed to see, because you're exposed to different things. A lot of our educated people don't think like that. They go get degrees and then go work for somebody. We have to understand the best of our group, of our people. I need them to stop saying, I'm not going to put nothing in the black community because they ain't going to do nothing but tear it up. You're right. The first 2-3 years they will. But if you got a 10-15 year plan with groups over time, the people will begin to be redeveloped. And it's easy now for you to police your own people. We got all the education in the world. Our grandparents fought tooth and nail for us to get the education, and we're supposed to use the education to turn around and create an economic base and a political base by owning the communities. The communities we live in, everybody else own it. And I'm gonna tell you something. That's not the hood people fault. That's the black educated fault. They're the sole blame for that. Because, like I said, if I was in here with 10 guys from the block, they don't know nothing about zoning laws and investments and credit lines and all that kind of stuff. But I know a lot of black educated people that do, that work for other ethnic groups, and they don't own nothing in their communities.
Actually, I totally agree with that. I want you to expand on that because I actually know a coder, and he left his high-paying job coding because of that very thing. He
Yes.
said, I'm building all these things for people who don't know how to do anything. Well, I could just build stuff myself and sell it. I don't need them, right? They need me. So there was a little pushback in the chat about leading versus building, right? Leading versus building. Can you go into why it is, I mean, leading versus working? I apologize. Leading versus working. Can you go into why it is we need leaders and not workers? You already touched on it, but can you make that a little bit more clear?
I said we need workers, not less leaders. The problem is we got too many leaders and not enough workers.
Oh, wait, you need workers. Okay, so maybe they heard you wrong.
Yeah,
So you're saying you need workers
we need
and
workers and less leaders.
leaders.
Because the more workers, the more people that's coming in, plowing the road, putting hand and fist to the ground, leaders will be birthed out of that. We got too many leaders in the community that ain't done nothing, that ain't got nothing done.
Yeah, I think you misunderstood him. He was saying everybody doesn't need to be a leader. Some people need to be able to support those who are leading.
We need to be able to support the foundation that we build it. We need workers. We need my dad was an engineer for 40 years for Sunoco and the refinery. After 20 years, he was a master. He never thought to quit his job and create his own engineering business and go in there and fight for contracts to do his own. Other groups do it. We don't have enough. So now we had a generation of people that came up from the South that was running from Jim Crow South to get people up here was fighting to get laws changed so that they just wanted to get better jobs so they can send us to school. Our parents' generation to school. Our parents' generation went to school and tried to create the best life for us. And then now our generation now we have to get into ownership. We have to understand what ownership is in the community. And why am I saying this? All of this goes back to why urban nurse is necessary and why Philadelphia has 500 homicides, why Chicago homicide rate is so high. We have to understand that we are in a system of capitalism. Every group comes here to compete. Inside your community, you can walk through Philadelphia, Baltimore, Chicago, everywhere. You're going to see black communities where everybody else is making money off of our dime. This is why we're subordinate to everybody else and not each other. We don't forgive each other, but we forgive everybody else because psychologically we're conditioned to think we need them for everything. I don't need Irene Yvette is irrelevant to me unless I'm trying to get sex from her because we don't rely on each other for anything. This is the issue with capitalism. When you have communal-based businesses and you're passing down generational wealth in relationships, it dictates how the community treats you. It dictates. There's an understanding for what goes on in the community. We don't have that. We don't have none of that. We had that during segregation, but we don't have that now during integration with the illusion of inclusion. We think we arrived, and while we think we arrived, and the way we're behaving, our children and our communities are burning on fire. And everybody, and we just looking around like not knowing what to do. And I'm standing there in the middle of the block as a person in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, and sold plenty of drugs. I made a lot of money. And I was able to leave my community. And I remember one day I was living out in a county. I had a nice house, big house. I lived next door to an Asian person and a person from India. And in having conversations with these men back in 97, both of them had businesses in the community that I was running away from. And I learned real quick, like, damn. You know, I got to get into real estate. I got to get into business. I got to get into different things. And when I try to do things with other black people, and because we don't have a generations of doing business together, we don't have trust together. We don't trust.
Speak on that.
We don't trust. See, and the reason why I'm going into all of this, because we have a tendency, Irene, to see the end result. The end result is crime. That's the end result. Crime, kids running wild, all kinds of things. But if you don't take care of the other things in the system of capitalism, where you have economic capital to compete, to redevelop your people, you're going to get all of that. That's all by design. That's all by design. So it's not the white man's job to fix this. This is our job to figure it out and figure our way out how to fix our own problem. They created the problem, but now we got to fix it. And everything is backwards. What you see is, look at the thugs in the hood. And I'm saying, like, no, where are your black HBCUs? They graduate every year. Where are your black attorneys, your black accountants, they're in college. Where are they? I'm in Chicago. I'm in Baltimore. Where are you? Why aren't y'all here? So as long as you're not here, invisible, where we can see you working together and moving and building some type of cohesion to change our situation, then you're going to keep having what you have in this system.
Actually, that's crazy that you're bringing that up, because we know that those people exist. I was literally just yesterday reading a speech that was given by an escaped slave 200 years ago, where she literally said the same thing. She named pretty much all the same people you named and was like, well, where are they? Like, where are they to step up to help move our people forward and liberate us? This was like 30 years before slavery ended. So I think you make an excellent point. Somebody's got to do that work. When we talk about, because I want to go back to this, every man wants to be a leader, right? Obviously, there are roles of leadership people can play. Can you speak to, as somebody that is over, I'm sure, other people and is dealing with a lot of families and children, can you speak to how, as a man, you can get your mind together so that you are comfortable assisting another brother in what he is doing without feeling that that is a diminishment to your personal manhood, that you don't have to start your own thing, that it's okay for you to help build that thing that is already there?
Well, see, because for me, because I come from the block where that just was a way of life. We did things together. It's not a problem for me. I love working with my brothers. I don't like doing nothing by myself. It's boring. I like being in the room. I like being in the room with other brothers, where we building and putting our minds together. I come up through that. That's what I know. Yeah, I mean, everything I learned came from a collection of working with brothers. So even with Urban Nerds, my partner Marvin Burrow, we're working with a group of with groups of black men on the ground. We're putting this work in together. You know, I don't have that type of ego where I feel like I actually the type of person that I am, I can come help you or help another brother, and if they do better than me, if they're doing better than me, I feel good because I know I had a hand in that. That's how I feel because I'm the type of person I'm gonna get mine regardless because I'm a hustler. I'm gonna get mine, but if I can help other people get theirs in the process, then I'm doing my job. My legacy is being stamped. So for me, I don't think like that.
I understand what you mean, but what about people that do? Because a lot of people do think that way. A lot of people. So what I hear, right? Is
Hmm.
my audio okay? What I hear when I talk
You good?
to,
You good?
okay, what I hear when I'm listening to men talk is a lot of them lack direction,
Hmm.
but they want to lead, right?
Hmm. I got you. I know what you're saying. This is the thing, right? There's a lot of men that say they want to lead, but what happens is when you get groups of men, the leaders are going to stand out amongst men, and some are going to follow, some are not going to be down. What I do is I lay down my plan on what I want to do, and either if you're going to be down, you're going to be down. If not, you're not. If you need help, we'll help you. But my thing is the alphas and the guys that's going to lead are going to stand out amongst men. So a lot of that stuff, man. Um, you have issues. You have issues of brothers not wanting to work together. But what I did was 2021, my motto was a little different because I'm tired of saying that black men don't want to work together. What I decided to do was create something and work with the brothers that want to work. If you don't
Mm.
want to work, then we can't do nothing with you. Because for years I know that black men don't want to work together, but I know why black men. But let me rephrase that. Let me stop because I said I was going to stop saying that. It's not that black men don't want to work together. Black men don't know how to work together. See, you don't just get up and say, "Hey, let's work together." Working together you have to have trust. You have to have understanding. You have to have a level of love. And if that's not passed down generationally, if that's been lost amongst men, then you can't work together on all level. And your education doesn't just because you educated that you don't get away from that. If we don't, for a long time, we've had communities where black men don't see when they see a black man, they don't see themselves. So it's hard for them to work together if they don't see another brother in themselves. And Urban Nerds is trying to recreate that idea. When we convene as brothers, we say as soon as we walk in the room, we say, "I love you, brother." We make sure we say that. You can't even come in the room amongst us when we about to build and plan our stuff without saying, hugging the brother and telling him you love him. That's how we move because we got to reinstill that thought process back in our mind, and then we take that to the streets. And we tell brothers, we tell brothers the same thing. If you don't see yourself in another brother, then you can't do nothing with them. I can't even take you out on the street with me no more. We can't do anything. So that's something that's going to have to be retaught. Because in communities we come from, unfortunately, if you look at a brother's sneakers for too long, it might cost you your life. That's just what it is.
So I want to talk about where where this leadership comes from. Do you think, because you mentioned earlier, like if you get a group of guys together, you will see who is a leader and who is not. Is that something that is innate in people, do you think? Or do you think that people have to be taught?
Most
That's
leaders,
like an external thing.
most leaders are born. Most leaders are born. It's just in them. They're going to stand out. They're going to stand up. They're going to have because you have to have the heart to do something. You got a lot of people that got leadership qualities, but they don't have the heart to stand up under the lights and move and galvanize people. They can write. You might got people that can write my speech, but they don't have the heart to go and move or the charisma to get through to people. So leaders are born. Like it's just a talent. It's a talent. that you have, man. You have the ability and the energy to put out that people want to follow. It's not something that you practice. It's not It's something. It's just something that you do organically. Something that you do organically.
So it's not external, because I'm glad that you said that. I'm thinking I really want people to get an idea of how a man who leads, how their mind works, because I want, especially the women, right? Because the men have a lot of confidence in themselves and a lot of confidence that there are male leaders. But especially with the women, I want the women to hear how the mindset and the way that leaders talk is very different. And you'll see that Brother Macon, although all of our brothers are from different places in the country and they all have different backgrounds, they all say the same things about leadership. And not because they know each other, but because there's a certain way that leaders think. When let's go to women, right? Women can provide a lot of resistance. We've had brothers on here who have churches, who have schools, who have um, mentoring agencies, just a bunch of brothers that, rites of passage programs, brothers that are constantly working with women and children. It's almost impossible to do work in the Black community, right? Without working with women and children. So, how do you deal with, especially because you're dealing with children, how do you deal with, women who are disagreeable? Women don't go along all the time. How do you deal with that and still manage to do the work that you do?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't had that problem. I think, I mean, I can only put it from my experience, because I can't speak for nobody else. But I think just the way I move and the way we're moving and what we're trying to do, I haven't had that problem, man. A lot of the moms in the communities we come from, man, they begging us to come get their children. Please, I need you guys to get my son off the block. I need you guys to help. They're begging us. No, I don't. I never. A lot of the arguments that I see on YouTube where these guys be whining and crying about these unruly women, and maybe I might be a little arrogant when it comes to that because I'm a man and I was raised by my father. Don't a woman tell me what to do. I'm a man. I go out and I make my way, and I bring the women. I bring the women to my program, and either they want to be a part of it or not. I don't operate like that. I was raised from the time I was born by my father, and my father said a man, he gets a house, he creates something for himself first, and then he brings a woman into his program. So when I operate. When I go around women, I go around with something that they can already benefit from. If they don't want to be a part of it, fine. I don't get into all of that. I don't whine and cry about women, and if it's a problem, then we just move on. I don't do that. But like I said, I was raised by my daddy, ex-military. He was a man's man. We don't do no crying, we build. And most of the time, when women see you got your shit together and you doing what you're supposed to do, they get on board anyway.
Yes, definitely. Nia said, well, those women are in a position where they need you. All women need a man, right? A man's leadership. But I think more importantly, we have a lot of single mother homes in our community. And so whether those women are financially disenfranchised or not, most women would be happy for a man to come around, especially if they have sons, and be a mentor figure to that child. And if that's not a need that they think they have, then that is probably a problem with the mother. So I think a healthy woman will recognize if she has a child that needs male guidance and that guidance is being offered, then I believe what Brother George is saying, which is that those women are going to take that opportunity because a good mother is going to want what's best for their child. So we cannot be resistant, right, to the things that improve our community. What is your advice? Because I'm glad you brought up like YouTube in the real world. I say that all the time. Like YouTube is YouTube and the real world is the real world. But we know people on YouTube make up those. They're from the real world. Granted, their rhetoric may not translate into the real world, right? They do things on YouTube that are not. But for people who cannot make that separation, they hear these things. What would you advise people to do so that they can see and have in their personal lives. Let's say somebody may not be in the Philly area. How then do they connect themselves with those people that are leading in their area, or get involved with organizations so that they can feel that sense of leadership in their personal lives?
You it's there around you. Like I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of people in the Black community. There's a lot of different programs in Black communities across America. A lot of times, Irene, Black people, um, Black people don't want to be a part of certain things because they don't want to be responsible to nothing. See, doing this kind of work, Irene, requires work and change. It requires you to have to look at yourself in the mirror and know you have to make change about certain things. A lot of Black people want to complain, but they're comfortable in their complaints. Changing the community is work. Change it. That means that you got to change some things about yourself and your lifestyle, and people don't want to do it. So you have things here. You have things here. Me with urban nerds and doing things with children as a mom. Like if you know you're a single mom and you got your children and like the children being raised in a messed up environment and there's no dad around, then it's your job to place that son in an environment where he can get some type of manhood leadership and guidance. That means that you will have to change some things about yourself, and you might have to bring them down to certain places and do certain things. You gotta place them in those environments. We're here, but I'm telling you, Irene, in our communities, a lot of people don't want to do work. They don't want to do the work because do the work means that they got to change things about themselves. So that's why they don't get part of. That's why a lot of times people don't get involved in certain things. They don't want to be told what to do, and a lot of our people, if it's not pertaining to them, a lot of our people are lazy and selfish. They care about themselves.
There are two questions. I want to get to Neely's question second, but I want to back up to something you said earlier, which and both of these questions deal with trust, right? One of the questions is you mentioned earlier that we don't trust enough to work with each other. I definitely have experienced this. I knew a brother over in Oakland. He had a little karaoke spot that did brunch on Sundays, and he worked with some brothers who had a club. And he was like, we really want to get invested in some other stuff. And I know a dude who's made a lot of money in tech, right? He came up with the .com boom. Somebody that they could Google and know that it was legit, right? Meet him in person, see that's the same person I Googled. This is a whole human being. But they were not willing to trust, right? To step out, although they said that's what they wanted. They don't trust other Black people. So they weren't willing to. They were like, I see he's legit, but yeah, nah, we're good. We're just gonna
Let
keep
me
on
ask
doing
you a
it.
question with that, Irene. Though, was they Pookie and Ray Rays, or was these black educated Black folk?
They were not Pookies and Ray Rays. I don't think they had degrees, but married men with
Yes,
wives and
these
children.
wasn't gangsters.
Yeah.
These wasn't gangsters. That's why I said
No.
it's on all levels. It's on all levels. I've seen it.
Yeah. So how do we get past that? What do you think some of the steps are to getting our people to be willing to engage in that cooperation?
People that are woke, people that are recognizing this across America got to come together and work together in small groups and let it build outward. I look at remember like the Black Panthers created something in the 60s with no social media, no cell phones, no nothing that went worldwide. Garvey did something back in the 20s that went, so it's no excuse for us. We can create things in pockets across America and use social media. Like we complained for years, Irene, about the way we was portrayed in media by other groups. Now we got these social media places. We should be using these spaces to do exactly what I'm saying now. Work together in small groups and begin to build across the country. And let the energy take on a life of its own. You got to start somewhere because everybody not going to wake up. This is the thing, right? This is the thing what I always tell people and people don't in business. Everybody can't be the CEO, Irene. Some people got to be the dispatcher. Some people got to drive the trucks. Some people got to do the forklift. Some people got to do the paperwork. Yes, some people going to be the manager, the president, the CEO. So you need small groups of people to wake up and do things to benefit the masses. And you got to start it from there. Especially cities with where cities are large populations of black people, we got to start working together in groups and begin to build from there.
Neely asked, Irene, can you please ask George, how can I begin to trust Black men again?
Well, that's a hard question to ask because she don't know all black men. She hasn't experienced all black men. She has to say that question, I guess, should be asked, how can I trust my experience with it's about her experience with the black men that she experienced. I don't know the way she came up. I don't know what type of household she was raised in. I don't know what type of household that she was raised in. I don't know her upbringing that may formulate her ideas of the type of men she may draw to herself. As a father of two daughters that I raised from child to adult, they were raised around their father, up under their father. I don't know how she was raised in the way she may have picked men. I don't know the type of men she liked, what type of men she picked. So trusting black men may come from her picking the wrong men. I don't know. So that's a question that she would have to be on here because she don't know all black men. She don't know all black men. So she can't say she don't trust black. Just, it's millions of us out here. Like that's like me saying, I've been hurt. How can I trust black women? But I don't know all black women. The black women that I choose is based off of my experiences in my rearing. Formulates the things that I like, what I'm attracted to. I might have to look at myself in the mirror and say, I got to change my aura in the way in the things I attract to me and the things that I like. Maybe I get a different, outcome.
So I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about it in a way because as women, we can be very emotional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. We're human, but I want to talk about, for example, you are married.
Mm-hmm.
You've been married for what, 20 years or so?
16.
16 years. Your wife, she's not, I'm presuming, the
Mm-hmm.
same prototype of woman that you were probably dating prior to her. Is she or is she not? She's different. So you changed what you were picking and found yourself a wife.
Right.
With that change. So I just want to say that it's not just one way, right? Because we know that that is weaponized. Like Cherise said it. Here we go with that dusty choose better rhetoric. We know that is weaponized, but there's a truth to that. Somebody sent me, there was a woman apparently who had won the lottery. Mr. shared this with me. She had won the lottery and she was with her child's father. She didn't want to break up with him, and he kept going back to jail and doing all this stuff. And she won the lottery, so literally, she kept bailing him out. This is a real Black woman.
Yeah, I remember that. I see that. Yeah.
Instead of just getting rid of him, right? Just get rid of him. So that was her choice, not to get rid of him. As many times as he went to jail, she could have moved.
But let me speak to that, right? See, but that's why I tell sisters like I tell my daughters. Some of that I got to look at her and look at where she come from, what household she was raised in. Why is she making these decisions? See, your decisions is based off of your experiences. Facts. So look at the guy, but I need to look at the young lady that asked the question as a daughter. Why are you making these decisions? I need to look at you and your background. Once I see you and your background, I can understand where your decision making come from. So,
right.
And these are the things as a man, when I'm dealing with women, because I believe that women should be protected. Is a reason why women should be protected, because of the emotions and things that when women's innocence are broken, they have these aspects of how can I trust men? Well, the thing is, man, a lot of women are violated young. They're not protected. They're not a lot of things. So they carry these emotions. So I need to know, is a reason why that type of comment comes from somewhere. But then you have to, like I said, you have to look at her background and how is she being placed in these situations. You there, Irene? Oh, she must have lost her signal or something. We gotta wait for her. We say, how are blacks going to come together when we're subconsciously trained every day not to?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so I was saying that um there what when you were saying she could choose better, you were saying that based on the fact that that's what you chose to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We call
I had to
it,
better myself. I had to better myself. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna use myself. Irene, not to cut you.
yeah, I was going to say because
Yeah,
people make it like that's just a thing, but our choices do matter. And
yeah.
George chose to choose better himself. He's not just saying that to women.
But I'm gonna tell you what I did, Irene. I kept getting my heart broke. I kept going through different changes and different things with women. But I'm gonna tell you where it came from. I had mommy issues. I grew up without my mom. Was raised by my dad, and I was always searching for this mother love inside of a woman that no woman, no, mostly no woman is gonna ever really love you like your mother would. Your mother loved your mother, your mother loved you for your survival. You know what I mean? The thing is, I didn't have my mom, so when it comes to my choosing of women, a lot of times I picked the wrong ones. Once I was able to go through my metamorphosis and my different changes, I looked at myself and I didn't blame the women. I had to blame myself. I looked at myself in the mirror and said, I have to reevaluate the type of women that I draw to me, the type of women that I'm attracted to, the type of everything. When I've made a reevaluation, I've been married 16 years. I brought a different type of energy and a different type of woman into my life. But it took me. And it took me to look back into myself and say, why do I keep getting these women and having damn near the same type of outcomes? It ain't even about the woman, it's about me. It's about me. Because what? I don't have to be with these women. I didn't have to stay with them that long for them to hurt me. I made those choices. So these are things that it's all a part of growth and growing up and understanding and learning how to love ourselves enough to make the right decisions that's going to better ourselves going forward. That's all it is.
David Johnson asks, how are Blacks going to come together when we are subconsciously trained every day not to do so?
Well, he just answered the question. If he's able to ask that question, that means that he's consciously aware of why we're subconsciously trained. So now we gotta go the opposite route. People of us that's woke, like I just said before, if we can ask the question that and we can say that we're subconsciously trained, that means that we're consciously aware. Those of us that's consciously aware got to start working together and to create things that our people can benefit from, like every other group do. The problem is, Irene, the majority of our people ain't woke, right? Watch this. Watch how easy this is. The majority of our people ain't woke, but we're buying things and sustaining ourselves from other groups that's providing stuff for us. We're not
Mm,
for ourselves. So whether you woke or not woke, somebody's still going to be in your community doing things. So it might as well be us. Those of us that's consciously woke need to create things for the masses of our people to benefit from. And that's when things start to change.
man, that is the truth. And I want to ask you this question. And you pretty much already answered it, but I want to ask it in a more straightforward way so that it's not missed. What you're saying is that you need a very active minority. You don't need a majority.
Oh,
So then should people be discouraged if they don't see hordes of Black men doing something? Or should they be encouraged that there's a strong minority that are willing to do that work and step behind them?
two things should be going on in the Black community, right? We know we can argue all day about the single mom thing. I don't even get into that. When I go outside, I know we got single moms. So two things: the brothers in the community that's conscious, we got to work together to build, and these sisters that have their sons, they have to be teaching and talking to their sons every day about being leaders, about being kings, about being rulers. We got to teach that to our sons. Just think of this, Irene. What do you think white women teaching their sons? How do you think they stayed in power all these years? What do you think
Mm.
she's telling her son? What do you think she's saying to her son? What do you think? How do you think he's being reared? They say the mother's the first teacher. So what is that white woman telling her son every day?
How can women do their part in that? Like obviously he needs a male example,
He do,
but
he
but
do.
outside of that, what can women do? So the male example, if you don't have that in the home, we know we seek that. But then while you're acting as a mother, what is it that women can do to do their part in cultivating those leaders?
Let me just say this: woman have men teaching their sons, but the white woman also talks and teach her son about leadership. It's not just men, it's a collective effort. This is the thing, right? Forget the white man. In our communities, we got black women alone in the homes with their sons. So we got to think logically. Let's get out of the emotions. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm teaching now. I'm not pointing the finger or saying who right or who wrong. Get out your emotions. Listen to me. Inside the homes right now, in the conditions that we're in, we have a lot of single moms. The dads are not there. I'm not saying who right or who wrong. We're saying what the conditions are. So in those homes right now, a lot of our sisters got to tell their sons, man, you a king, you a leader, you a ruler. That has to be constantly reinforced in his mind, because this is war. This is war. Single moms in our community is warfare on our communities from other groups of competing men. They don't want groups of competing. They don't want black men with their minds together, right? Because the first thing when we got our minds together, we're going to say, I don't want to work for you. I want to work for myself. I want to create my own. So they work together to keep our men dismantled. So people like me that's on the ground with urban nerds doing the work, you teach it, constantly tell that to your son, and then bring your son to our groups. Bring him to us. And we'll work together as a collective to fix the problem. But we need our men. We need our men built up. We need our men built up. I'm bringing up white women because I'm making an example of what's being told. So now in our communities, we got to reinforce that in our boys too, because the boys are protectors, directors, and correctors of communities.
So you're saying as Black women, we have a lot of power.
Yes.
The situation we're in is the situation we're in. But if we focus on the young boys that we still have in our homes,
yes,
we can cultivate a generation of men for our daughters that will be suited to leadership.
So, but listen to this. See, this is the problem, and why I talk to men and I don't talk to women. Just listen to the comments. So now you heard everything that I just said, and you understood what I said. So
yes, I did.
So black women are not loving and nurturing their sons. This is the nonsense that comes out of this. This is why me as a man, I don't talk to women. I talk to men and build men up, and then let women benefit. Because you clearly understood what I said. I never said, I'm gonna reinforce it. I never said that black women wasn't loving and nurturing their sons.
And I'll concur with that. He never said anything close to that.
But I'm gonna tell you, some of our sisters are so hurt that when they see a good black man trying to love and teach, they still attack. Don't attack me. I'm not the one that did it. I'm trying to explain something to us and what we should be doing. I'm not the bad guy. I'm not the guy that hurt you. What I'm saying is, in our communities, I'm not saying who right or who wrong, but in our communities, we have a lot of single moms inside our homes. And we can argue all day about the dad not being there or who did this, but that's not helping the sons. So what we got to do is work with what we got. So what I'm saying is, I'm on the ground doing the work, but the sisters in the house, you got to reinforce to your son that he's a leader, he's a king, he's going, ownership. The mom has to reinforce that, and then
I'm so sorry. I just want to say, because I'm seeing women say in the chat, like, of course we love and nurture our sons and all this stuff. I'm going to tell you something. I'm about to keep it like really, really, really real, because I do work with women in the real world, and I do work with Black children in the real world. Some women are very, and I'm not saying it's you in the chat, I'm saying let's not pretend like we haven't seen a Black mother smack her child up against his head. Have we not seen Black mothers berate? I've personally seen this. I've seen it with women that I work with, as far as when I'm mentoring and working with mothers. I've seen it in public. I've literally seen in public. I was live at the airport.
Uh-oh.
I've literally seen in public, right? People, I was just live at the airport the other day, and you guys were there, and I said, I am watching this woman with her disheveled sons drag her sons around the airport. For us to sit here and act like overwhelmingly Black women are loving and nurturing their sons would be an absolute lie. And the reason it's important to call this out, I have a whole video that speaks to Black single mothers. The reason it's important to call this out is because how will anything ever improve? How will we ever, if we pretend that Black women are overwhelmingly doing everything they can to raise good men, but society is not producing high quantities of good Black male leaders, that would be a lie. And you know the lying I'm not with. Now, everybody was fine when I called the men out last night. Everybody was fine when I called the men out last night. So let's not get into our feelings when it's our turn at the stick. And let's not come down on Brother George for keeping it real.
I think a sister AE, she asked the question. She said, "How can a woman cultivate what she hasn't seen?" And
That's a good question.
yeah, but my response to that was, now I'm gonna flip it, because I could say that how can a lot of men, these men teach manhood if they wasn't raised in the house with their fathers? They was raised by single moms. This is the thing. As we begin to grow AE, we know right from wrong, and we're adults now. We know what's needed in our communities. A lot of us as adults. I know what it is to be a man. You know what it is to be a woman, and you know what it is to be adult. We gotta instill wisdom and the right things into our children. What I'm saying is, we gotta get out of this. And I'm not saying you AE, but we gotta get out of this excuse making. We know better, and we know what we need. You know that you got a son, and you know the type of man that you will want. You will want, as a woman, you want a strong man that can lead you. You want a strong man that can love you and protect you. Then you instill that same thing in your son. So don't say that you don't know, because you know what you want in a man. Instill that. Because a lot of brothers that's coming ain't had dads. They've been raised by single moms, but they still get out here and teach these boys. So we got to get out here, man, and roll up our sleeves. I don't deal in the gender war stuff on women wrong, on man. I don't get into none of that crap. I just go ahead and do the work and work with people that want to work.
Right. At the end of the day, it's not about, because, JL was saying, well, why don't we look at the stats for when men raise? It's not about that. All Brother George is saying is, women, you might be a woman that doesn't have the advantage of a man being there. So you got to do the best you can do. And so he's giving you advice on how you can cultivate the best child possible in the worst possible situation without passing blame. And that, what do you?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say this, right, and I'm gonna tell you, Irene, it's a lot of it is not our fault, because a lot of us are so hurt, and we're not over the pain of our past. And as Black men and Black women, we don't know how to receive instructions from each other. And that's by design. A lot of sisters don't know how to receive instructions from Black men. They don't. A lot of Black men don't know how to properly give instructions or cater to the emotions of a woman. We was never taught it. So a lot of times when sisters do hear men talk, they're going to reject it right away because they don't know how to respond to it. And then a lot of brothers don't know how to cater to the emotions of a woman as the leader. So that's why, for me, I don't talk to women until I got my shit together. And we come on the scene with our shit together. So now I come on as a man. This is what we doing. If you ain't down, then get on. That's the only way it's going to work, because a lot of our women are not used to receiving instruction from men. And they don't. A lot of them don't even mean no harm. That's just it comes out naturally. And that's an issue in our community that has to be dealt with.
Yes, it is. We do have to learn to be able to hear each other more. But also remember, and I don't want to keep you too long because I've already had you for an hour.
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Also remember, you guys, that we have to be willing to be introspective. And the purpose of this series is to expose us to Black men who are leaders, literally leading. Right? So we can argue and press back all we want in these YouTube streets. But on our Black Men's Leadership series, these are the men we say we want to see. These are the men who are out in the community doing the work. These are the men who are, we're talking to a brother who he works with Black children. He's encouraging Black children to get educations. He's taking them to places that they may not get to go to otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to respect that and then be receptive, because if we can't listen to the men that are doing the work, well, then we're being very stiff-necked, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you did you get that video clip that I sent that you might be able to show them? The promo
Oh,
commercial.
let me look. Let me see.
I might have to resend it to you.
Let me see. You can share it too.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it up there.
Did you email it to me?
I don't know. You said I could share it, right? I'll
Yeah,
pull it.
you should be able to share it.
Okay, I'll go to it real fast so that they can see some of the stuff that we're trying to do. All right. Wait a minute.
Sharice said, I don't really believe women can raise sons to be functional and productive. But you know what? We can't talk about what can't be done right now. I agree it's not ideal. I agree a single mother needs to try to get with an organization like Urban Nerds Worldwide, or place their child in a position where they have exposure to Black male example. But his point is, if you have to do it, then it must be done. If
Yes.
you don't have the option, you can't be like, well, okay, well, I can't do it, so I guess you're just, throwing you to the dogs, kid.
Well,
We have to try,
yeah,
not because it's ideal, but because it must be done.
brothers can't complain about women being unruly, and women can't complain about raising certain things if we still making babies. Like, we're still going out making babies. Like, brothers is putting these babies in women and they're not being there. The women have got their issues. We got dysfunction that needs to be ironed out. A lot of these boys are not raised to even understand what manhood is, and it's a lot. A lot of these girls are not being raised protected to understand what type of man they should be picking. It's all part of a big cesspool that needs to be worked out, needs to be dealt with, and I'm deciding to do something about it.
Make sure that you go over to urbannerdsworldwide.com to get more information about the organization, volunteer, offer your services if you're in the Philadelphia area. And also for your donations, that's the best place to make your donations, tax deductible donations. And I want to thank you again so much for taking the time to come through. Now I can stop harassing you. Look at that. Got me off your back. Now I won't be over on your channel blowing up. I am trying to get him to come do my interview. I won't be doing that in the middle of your lives.
And just remember, I leave it with this: support the people that loves you enough to support you. Support the people that want to do something without you asking them to do it. Support your own. Don't if you don't support it and I got to go to Mr. Charlie to get the money, don't call me a coon and a sellout. I'm here on the ground. I need the support of my own people. My biggest fear is Urban Nerds blowing up and all my supporters from white people. That's my biggest fear. We need the support of our own. But if I got to get it from white folks to save these kids, I will. But I need it from my people.
I think we can support our own to grow our own, because if we don't, then what we do not financially support, we cannot control. So we want to make sure we keep control and influence over our organizations. And the only way we can do that is to get behind these Black male leaders, right? Because we say they're not out there, but when they're doing the work, the only way that work's going to get bigger, the only way it's going to grow and impact more Black people so that we do see it, is if these organizations don't get snuffed out. I have watched organizations get snuffed out because of lack of community support. So let's, as we're becoming aware of them, let's make sure that we are consistent in showing that support.